Yeah, the worst obviously is when your friend doesn't make it home and you go to those funerals and you pound your trident into the coffin and you see that widow or the kids, and so that's obviously the worst part of it. But the best part of it, gosh, I never really thought of the best part of it.
I'm Dave Rubin, and joining me today is a Navy SEAL sniper, a #1 New York Times best-selling author, and now author of the brand new book, In the Blood, Jack Carr. Finally, welcome to the Rubin Report.
Thank you so much for having me on. Great to see you.
I have wanted to have you on for quite some time. First off, I gotta say, I had to say #1 New York Times best-selling author, even though the New York Times left me off their bestseller list just weeks ago. But you got the #1 spot. It's still credit to you. So it sort of stabbed me a little bit. I'm kind of in the blood right now, but you deserve the credit, and I went ahead and did it anyway.
Well, I sincerely appreciate that. And as we know, it's hard. The #1 and #2, maybe #3 slots on that list, like it's hard for them to ignore. But they have some flexibility down there with those other ones. As an editorial, I think it was found, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 years ago, whenever that was brought up to the courts. So they have a little flexibility there. But that's why the goal has to always be #1, so they can't ignore you.
Exactly. Well, you did get #1. It says it right here. I just said to you before we started, the cover of this book is just awesome. The colors, it just freaking hits. You got a couple of them behind you. So first off, I just got to start with, your whole operation there. I'm feeling very stuffy right now. You are obviously, you are in your bunker somewhere safe. What's going on over there?
This is true. Undisclosed location, but I like to be surrounded by things that mean a lot to me. The crossed Winkler tomahawks that are used in the book and that Amazon actually allowed us to use in the series and feature prominently with Chris Pratt that's coming out this summer. But probably like this one. This is Hemingway's typewriter right here.
Wow.
He wrote a movable feast on this. It went up for auction with a bunch of other Hemingway stuff in January, early February of 2020. So right before the COVID panic really hit, and a fan got it for me. And didn't want to be recognized, but knew I had this, just a fan of Hemingway, and thought that I would enjoy this and that I would appreciate it. And so they sent it to me with all the documentation and the whole thing. And yeah, it's crazy. So that inspires me as I write.
Man, you've done something right in life when someone you don't know buys you Ernest Hemingway's typewriter.
Crazy.
Pretty solid. So for my audience that does not know you or only knows about you from your writing, et cetera, give me a little bit of the history, the Navy SEAL, all of that stuff, because you have pretty extraordinary history yourself.
Well, I appreciate that. And I feel very fortunate in that I always knew I wanted to serve my country in uniform. Very early age. My grandfather served in World War II and didn't make it home. He was killed in the Pacific in May of 1945. But I grew up with the maps that they used to give aviators back then, which were silk, so that if they got wet, you could still use them and they didn't disintegrate like paper. Pictures of him and his squadron, his medals, his wings. He was a Marine aviator. So I was just drawn to the military from a very early age. And then at the ripe old age of 7, I found out about SEALs. And my mom was a librarian, so we went down to the local library to do some research. And there wasn't very much written about SEALs or special operations back then. There were a few articles here and there, a couple of chapters in a book or two. But my takeaway that, hey, these guys are some of the most elite special operators in the world, and the training is some of the toughest ever devised by a modern military. So whether that was true or not, 7-year-old Jack was all in, and the recruiter had to do nothing, essentially. I made their job very easy. So I kept my eyes on that for really my entire life. But I also started reading the books that my parents were reading in about 5th grade. So that's when Tom Clancy's Hunt for Red October comes out, and I'm reading David Morrell and Nelson DeMille and H.J. Quinnell and J.C. Pollock and Mark Olden and all these guys whose protagonists, whose main characters, had backgrounds in Vietnam, either as like Marine snipers back then, or it was Navy SEALs or Army Special Forces or CIA paramilitary. That was the typical background of your 80s action hero in the thriller genre, and then on screen as well. So it was so magical for me to read these books, and those guys were really my professors in the art of storytelling. Although I didn't look at it like that at the time, I was just a fan, and I knew that after my time in the military, I would write books like this, the books that I was enjoying as a kid growing up. So I never stopped that reading, never stopped that studying of warfare, whether the terrorism, insurgencies, counterinsurgencies, special operations. That was all just a part of my upbringing, and it was part of the foundation that allowed me to be the operator that I was, the leader that I was in the SEAL teams, and then all of that come together as I'm getting out to write these thrillers. So I did 20 years in the SEAL team, started out enlisted, was a sniper, then became an officer, finished up as a troop commander. And interestingly enough, that's where the reader meets my protagonist in my first novel. He's a troop commander on his way out, and then disaster and conspiracy strikes, and off we go to the races.
It's crazy how those things connect, huh?
It is, and it wasn't the intent. I thought there were going to be two separate chapters in life, but when I sat down to write that first one, it became readily apparent that it was going to be more than just the technical details of a sniper weapon system or something like that. It was really the emotions and the feelings behind certain events that I was involved in that I could bring to a completely fictional narrative. So if my main character, James Reese, is getting ambushed in Los Angeles, I can go back and remember what it was like to be ambushed in Baghdad in 2006 at the height of the war. And I can take those feelings and emotions and apply them to this completely fictional narrative, which is why I think it stood out to Simon & Schuster, who sees thousands of books like these cross their desks every year.
Yeah, give me like the best and worst moment of being a SEAL. I suspect I can guess the worst, but maybe the best.
Yeah, the worst obviously is when your friend doesn't make it home and you go to those funerals and you pound your trident into the coffin and you see that widow or the kids, and so that's obviously the worst part of it. But the best part of it, gosh, I never really thought of the best part of it, but I think it's the entire experience in that you have a purpose, you have a mission, your passion is being the best operator that you can possibly be. You owe that to the guys to your right and left, to their families, to the team, to the country as a whole, to that entire mission. So I think it's that. I guess it would be the having that purpose that is so clearly defined, and when you're downrange, being solely focused on that task in hand and not having to worry about anything else, not worrying about the leaky faucet or the gutters or the baby that's crying or whatever it is. You are solely focused on that task at hand, building patterns of life on your targeted individuals, and then going out and grabbing them in the middle of the night to bring them back, ask them a couple questions, and then go take out the rest of that network. So having that purpose that is so clear, I think, is probably one of the best parts.
So one of the things that I'm always amazed by is that those of you guys that have been in the military, been SEALs, been in the Navy, whatever it is, or people that have been in the CIA, the FBI. Just a couple of weeks ago, I had Brian Dean Wright on the show. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a former CIA guy. People that get out and then do things that are ancillarily related to this, whether it's talking on YouTube for a living, whether it's writing books that are either fiction or nonfiction, everything else. How do you blend? You know some stuff that they probably don't want you to talk about. There's a way that you have to fictionize some of these things. You don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to become a character in one of your books. How do you take all of those things and make it honest and sensible and also, not so you're going to get yourself killed, literally?
Right. So a lot of people think on the outside looking in that Navy SEALs know all sorts of secret stuff. And, maybe there's a couple things here and there, but really what we're doing is what every major city SWAT team is going to do tonight. They're going to go serve a warrant. They're going to go do either a no-knock or a knock warrant somewhere. They're going to bust in and they're going to grab a fugitive. So we're doing that same thing, except ours happen to be in Baghdad or Kabul or somewhere like that. And we have a few more maybe assets at our disposal to build these targets, build these target packages, and then go prosecute these targets. But there's not much secret about it. I mean, you're going up and kicking a door in the middle of the night and grabbing somebody out of their bed, essentially. I still wanted to make sure that I was complying with everything that I'd signed in the military, and I didn't want to give anything away. And I was still closely connected to my military time for that first novel. So I submitted it to I got some lawyers, and they said, yeah, we recommend you submit this. So I did, and they took out I think like 9 sentences, so not much. It was pretty good. Huh. And they came back to me with 45 days. They advertised 30, and what you sign says they will get back to you in 30. They got back to me in 45. I thought that was pretty good for the government. So I did the second one as well. That one month went by, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 7, and we had to push the publication date. And they got back and they took out 54 sentences, passages, words. So at this point, I can afford some more attorney fees. So we go and we appeal. And we tie each and every one of those redactions to a publicly available government document. So not to someone else's book or to Wikipedia, but something anyone in the world can download from our very own government. They let me win on 37. So now you can go to the paperback and you can look in there and you compare it to the hardcover and you can see what they were concerned about. But that I won on appeal. One of those things, I made up a completely fictitious CIA black site in Morocco. They took out Morocco, they took out Moorish architecture, they took out the Atlas Mountains, they took out everything that could pinpoint what country this. And I had in my military experience, no touch points with Moroccan intelligence services or military or anything like that. I just made it up. But by doing that appeal, what are they telling us? Well, now they're telling us that there's probably a CIA black site. So if they'd done nothing, it would have been more beneficial to them than had they gone through this process. So I did that for the first 3 novels. The third one, when we appealed, they got back and said, "Hey, we're not going to let you appeal." And I took that as, quit bothering us, kid, with this fiction.
We're not going to let you appeal. That's probably the best thing you can hear from the government in your shoes.
I'll take it.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about lifestyles instead of nonstop yelling, check out our lifestyle playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, check out our full episode playlist. They're both right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.